Welcome to Wheels TV On Demand. We're wild about wheels.
Another bruising style of motor racing is dirt track sprint car racing. And the track that did more than any other to showcase that sport is the subject of our next story. In the quiet glow of Southern California's perpetual sunshine, this empty racetrack fails to express how many countless thrills, spills, and surprises have unfolded here for nearly 4 decades. Here in Gardena, California, stands one of America's longest-running theaters of speed, Ascot Park. Since 1957, it has worked hard at earning the right to be called a legend. Ask anyone from anywhere in North America or beyond who's ever dreamed of racing a thundering sprint car around a loose dirt surface where they dreamed of doing it, and they'll probably tell you Ascot Park.
Well, Ascot is one of, the milestones of racing, sprint car racing. I mean, it's been here, as long as sprint car racing's been around. As far as I'm concerned, it's one of the best racetracks in the country.
It's something the American people feel like it's a part of their sport, and I think they always will.
The Ascot story began with one of motorsport's most bigger-than-life personalities, J.C. Agajanian. To his friends, and even those who didn't know him personally, he was simply Aggie. Aggie was always around race cars and was always the consummate promoter. So in 1947, he took his first trip to Indianapolis to see the 500, planning to build and enter a car there later on. 5 years later, in 1952, his number 98 car, the number that all of his future race cars would wear, won the Indy 500, driven by Troy Ruttman, who at the time was only 22 years old, one of the youngest drivers ever to win the 500. 5 years later, Agajanian's dreams of building and operating his own track were realized when Ascot Park opened in Gardena, California, with a wild assortment of dizzy racing action, from sprint cars to motorcycles and anything else that the canny promoter thought would give people a good show. Over the years, Agajanian's style and flair attracted the attention of some of the world's most influential people. They all seemed to take a liking to this colorful racing entrepreneur. And no matter who Aggie was rubbing elbows with, he always looked like he belonged there. Agajanian's sons, Kerry, J.C. Jr., and Chris, now run the Ascot operation. And Kerry can remember how racing was always a part of his growing up.
From the first time I can remember sounds or being at any, or having any recollection of it, I was at a racetrack. So we were always at tracks, and I always remember it. Remember being at a racetrack.
Kerry recalls the first time he realized his dad was a celebrity.
My first trip to Indianapolis in 1959, I was just turning 18 years old and walking along the street behind him while he was with one of his drivers, and each person, as we were walking down the street, each person would comment to his friend, "Hey, that was J.C. Agajanian." And I would hear that because I was some steps behind, and so I would hear the comments as my dad passed, and I was shocked that so many people would know him.
Through the years, some of racing's biggest names competed at Ascot Park.
A.J. Foyt, when you talk about legends, he's probably the first person that comes to mind. And A.J. Foyt has participated on this track a number of times. Mario Andretti has raced here. The Unsers have raced here. Bobby Unser, a multiple winner at Indianapolis.
But of all the great drivers that drove at Ascot, there's one that stands out in the Agajanian story. In 1961, J.C. met a young, headstrong jalopy driver at Ascot, who was at the same time reckless and almost unbeatable whenever he took to the track. His name was Rufus Parnelli Jones. 2 years later, Parnelli Jones won the Indianapolis 500 driving for Aggie in the number 98. Jones and Agajanian formed a partnership that lasted until 1984, when J.C. Agajanian passed away.
Coming here to Ascot Park all my life, from childhood on, is really the memories I have. I remember Chris and I would sit in the grandstands here, these same grandstands, as my dad would sometimes go by in a pace car, and we'd yell, "Hey Aggie," to Chris and I. We were joking because we'd hear other people in the stands yell, "Hey Aggie." To us, it was just our dad down there. He wasn't really somebody real special as far as we knew then. At home, he was just Dad.
Shortly after this story was produced, the gates of Ascot Park were closed and the track was torn down. Throughout its life, Ascot Park represented the realization of a single man's dream and how his relentless desire to entertain and thrill this country's vast throng of die-hard racing fans led to the creation of a small oval of dirt and concrete that ultimately became an American institution. J.C. Agajanian Jr. was asked how he would feel when the high-powered days of Ascot Park were finally over.
I don't know how I'm going to react when the final curtain is drawn, when the final checkered flag is thrown here at Ascot. But you know what? I believe I'm going to shed a tear for Ascot Raceway here in Gardena.
Racing on dirt is not for the timid. And when that dirt is found on a narrow mountain road where powerful race cars claw their way to the top, it can only be the notorious Pikes Peak Hill Climb. Pikes Peak, Colorado. Since 1916, the scene of one of motorsport's oldest organized events, the Pikes Peak Hill Climb. French filmmaker Jean-Louis Marais produced this exciting film called Climb Dance, which takes you on a phenomenal thrill ride up the 12.42-mile course that snakes its way some 4,700 feet up and around famed Pikes Peak. You're riding with perennial Pikes Peak champion Robbie Unser of the famous Unser racing family in the fiercely powerful Peugeot 405 Turbo 16. This car has set the overall record in this event more than once. Its raw power, tenacious handling, and the masterful skill of drivers like Unser and international rally star Ari Vatanen have launched it over the treacherous, challenging course in under 11 minutes. Now, just grab hold as we watch this virtuoso performance of car and driver working in total harmony in excerpts from this award-winning film, Climb Dance. In this race, there are no guardrails, safety barriers, or second chances. The road edge is the ultimate boundary between victory and disaster. As the car moves higher on the mountain, the precipitous drop-offs that line the loose dirt and gravel surface become even more intimidating. Yet to win at Pikes Peak, there can be no thoughts of choosing the safest way to the top, only the fastest. You can hear the delicate counter movements of the throttle and see the non-stop steering inputs this gifted young driver utilizes over this ever-changing surface. Even the sunlight becomes an unexpected hazard. Anyone who questions whether race drivers are true athletes would have little left to their argument if they attempted to engage in this vehicular wrestling match for 11 straight minutes, almost as long as a full period in professional basketball. The Pikes Peak Hill Climb. A ride in the mountains will never be the same.
Explore your passion for automotive entertainment with Wheels TV, the first television network dedicated to our automotive and motorcycle lifestyles. Like everyone who loves to drive or lives to ride, we're all wild about wheels.